Once again, Christian greetings to all our valued listeners and viewers throughout the whole world. Even more particularly to all Shepherd's Rod believers, and most especially to our beloved brothers and sisters in the United States of America. Special greetings to our brethren in Colorado, in Kansas, in Georgia, in Missouri, in Texas, in Arkansas, Chicago, Illinois, in California, New York, in Pennsylvania, in Canada, in Fiji Island, Mexico, Spain, in Africa, Zambia, Kenya, Pakistan, to the United Kingdom, and to our brethren in Australia, as well as to our brethren in Malaysia and in Indonesia, and to the rest of the 144,000 living saints scattered abroad. Greetings. May the good Lord bless you, my dear brothers and sisters. This is our special episode, number 81, as the last final warning message just prior to the close of provision. Let's read track number 3, 1934 edition, on page 67. It says, "This subject to some may seem as strange as the thought of the earth revolving on its axis was to the inhabitants of another day. Nevertheless, incredible things often become plain facts. Hence, do we little know of the many biblical numbers and their secret code of truth at the present time? They are not always to be dark elements to God's people, for they must be there to discover and illuminate to our vision the signposts on our way to the holy city." Track number 3, 1934 edition, page 67. So, the Shepherd's Rod plainly told us that there are many biblical numbers, and that biblical numbers is given by God to serve as our signpost on our way to the holy city. And track number 3, 3rd edition, the statement declared, it says, serves as let us read the statement. Track number 3, 3rd edition, page 89 and page 90. It says, "Doubtless to some, these numerical equations will seem strange as strange as the thought of the earth revolving on its axis was to the world of the Dark Ages. It is the incredibilities of today, however, that are taken for granted realities of tomorrow. So though at the present time, little do we know of the many Bible numerics and their veiled code of truth, not so is it always to be. For God has placed them along the Bible highways and byways of truth as signposts calculated to point and to illuminate the royal road to the kingdom. Track number 3, 3rd edition, page 89 and page 90. And that statement plainly indicating that God did not place on the inspired records those numbers without an object in view. And it says that they must be there to discover, to serve as our guide, a signpost to the kingdom, to illuminate the royal road to the kingdom. And there is a secret code according to that reading, by which such secret code no, it cannot be discovered by finite man. So it says here on 2TG 44, page 30 and 31, we as Christians have obviously failed to note that the secret things of God, matter not how simple, were to be unsealed at any time by anyone. Inspiration would never in the first place have canceled them in symbols and parables. Christendom is still blind to the fact that to attempt to break into the mysteries of God would be to attempt to defeat His purposes. Yes, to try to break into the divine code is to try the impossible. So, and the code is unbreakable. The absolute reality is that such a divine code is unbreakable. It says here in track number 12, page 63, to open without a key a locked door is, of course, to break the door. But being unbreakable, the locked door of prophecy is impossible to open without the key. Sorry. That is impossible. And it is guaranteed by inspiration that even the devil either cannot do such thing. It says in 2TJ 24 on page 16, are not these tests strong enough to convince any of you that the secret things of God, such as the cancelled prophecies, are not disclosed by finite men, no, not by the devil either, that when God wants a thing to be a secret, it remains cancelled until He Himself reveals it. Then when it is revealed, all are to know that God Himself is at work. 2 TG 24, page 16. Now, at this time, let us focus our attention to that subject, which is commonly called as the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. So, the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. Now, I would like to begin on to SR 255 and 256. It says, these coincidences, to SR 255 and 256, these coincidences are perfect with the day of the week and of the month, but the one is a month earlier in the season than the other. The Passover being in the first month and the flood in the second. It has been explained that the Passover is a type of the close of provision for the church. It says, see page 216 and 218. And the closing of the ark, a type of the closing of provision for the world. Therefore, there are 30 typical days between one close of provision and the other. If we were given light on how to decipher these typical 30 days, it seems it would reveal the exact number of years from the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9, Passover, to the final close of provision. This fact perhaps will not be made known until after the work of the gospel has closed. For a brief summary of the flood in type and antitype, we draw the reader's attention to the chart on page 250. Now, first of all, brothers and sisters, I would like to go back again to our divine principle that we should not give up any scripture truth according to the admonition given by the prophet in 7 Symbolic Code 7 to 12, page 19. We have learned much, and no doubt there is much more for us to learn. It is the follow on and the go through spirit that will finally land the remnant without fault on the heavenly Mount Zion. My conclusion is that we should give up no scripture truth, but that our false applications and interpretations of scripture and consequent false ideas of order and propriety should be given up as fast as possible. The Review and Herald, May 29, 1860. So, that divine principle must be applied both to the Bible and to the Spirit of prophecy. And I think is even more pertaining to Sister White and B.T. Hunter. Because, as we already explained, all the prophets, both in the Old and New Testament, although they have their false expectation, but it was not recorded. or it was not included in the inspired records. Unlike with Sister White and B.T. Halder, their false expectations were recorded in their inspired writings. So, the only things that we need not to give up is the scriptural truth. But concerning their false expectation, we need to give up. Now, here on 2SR 256, let's go back again, saying this fact, 2SR 256, this fact perhaps will not be made known until after the work of the gospel has closed. Now, concerning the work of the gospel, it is very broad. And here we can clearly understood that the work of the gospel mentioned here, brothers and sisters, is pertaining to the gospel that pertains to the dead. That concerning this subject, the 30 typical days, it will not be made known not until after the gospel or after the work of the gospel that pertains to the dead has closed. It could not be pertaining to the gospel that pertains to the living. First of all, it is out of value that such revelation would be after the time by which there will be no more chance to be saved. So we will prove to you that this statement in 2SR 255 and 256, that concerning the 30 typical days, such light will be given from heaven to God's church. It is after the work of the gospel that pertains to the dead has closed. So, if we could be able now to completely decipher these 30 typical days, then the only attainable conclusion is that the work of the gospel that pertains to the dead has closed. Or if you will be saying the work of the gospel, it is even more pertaining to the proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary. So, it pertains to the proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary. Now, let us go back to SR 183. So I would like to read here to SR 183. The door that was shut is a symbol showing that probation for the church had closed. Just shortly after the foolish virgins became alarmed. At last they were willing to pay the price and buy the oil. But it was not a change of heart, only the fear of losing out. Their course of action had left them without the seal. The man with the writer's inkhorn had passed them by. What a terrible mistake What a disappointment, almost saved, but entirely lost. So it says that the door that was shut is a symbol showing that provision for the church had closed. And remember, the comparison is the closing of the ark when Noah entered into the ark. And we already read in 2SR that the closing of the ark represent the close of provision for the world. So let's read again here in 2SR 255 and 256. It has been explained that the Passover is a type of the close of provision for the church. It says, and the closing of the ark, a type of the closing of provision for the world. Therefore, there are 30 typical days between one close of provision and the other. And if we were given light on how to decipher these typical 30 days, it seems it would reveal the exact number of years from the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9, Passover, to the final close of provision. So it says it would reveal the exact number of years from the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9 to the final close of provision. So the statement saying, if we were given light, of course, light cometh from heaven. And that light will not be given, not until the work of the gospel has closed, according to this reading. So, if we could be able now to decipher these 30 typical days, to repeat again, the only tenable conclusion is that the gospel work that pertains to the dead has already closed. So let us now study closely this prophecy. And the given example is the year when the flood took place and the year when Christ, or the year of Christ's resurrection, or Christ's crucifixion, resurrection, and ascension. Now let us read 2SR 254. It says, flood coincides with the Passover and crucifixion. So it says the flood coincides with the Passover and crucifixion. What Passover? Brothers and sisters, mentioned here. Now let us read the statement. It says, our God commanded Noah with his family, beasts, fowls, and creeping things to enter in the ark on preparation day, Friday. In the selfsame day entered Noah, as God had commanded him, and the Lord shut him in, as the Sabbath drew on, being the 10th day of the second month, Genesis 7 verse 13 to 16 and 16. 7 days later, or at the beginning of the following Sabbath, being the 17th day of the month, all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were open, and it rained upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. The rain ceased on the 27th day of the third month, and the 4th day of the week, Wednesday, at sunset. There is a remarkable coincidence between the flood and the Passover week, also in connection with the crucifixion, resurrection, and ascension of Christ. Therefore, this divine providence is worthy of our earnest consideration. The Israelites were commanded to take the Passover lamb apart from the flock on the 10th day of the first month, and were to kill it on the 14th day of the same month at even. So, it is concerning April 10 and May 10. By which the Shepherd says, there is 30 typical days. Although it was reversed. Because the flood is the first historical event. Noah entered into the ark May 10, 2344 BC. And that was Friday. But in 31 AD, April 10, 31 AD, that is the time that the sacrificial lamb, which is Jesus Christ, had been separated from the congregation or from the people. But this one is Saturday. So the statement, 1 month earlier than the other, because this one is April, this one is May. So April is earlier than, 1 month earlier than May. But this one is Friday. 1 day earlier than Saturday. Friday, Saturday. But the date is the same. So, the thing that perfectly coincides is only the date. Not the month and not the day. So I would like to read again the statement. In 2SR 255, it says, these coincidences are perfect with the day of the week and of the month. But the one is a month earlier in the season than the other. So, the statement, these coincidences are perfect with the day of the week and of the month, cannot be applied to the time when Noah entered into the ark, May 10, because that was Friday, and April 10 on 31 AD, that is Saturday. So, only the date, which is perfectly coincide. But, second, when the rain began to pour out, that was May 17. And that was Friday. And it is perfectly coincide with the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ was crucified also on Friday. But the date is not the same, because so I would like to show, brothers and sisters, hoping that you will be copying what I'm to have illustration. So the rain began to pour out May 17, 2344 BC. But this was Friday. Jesus Christ was crucified April 16, 31 AD. And this was Friday. So the day perfectly coincide. The rain began to pour out on Friday, and Jesus Christ also was crucified on Friday. But the date is not the same, because this one is May 17, this one is April 16. So the date is earlier than the other. 1 day earlier. This one is 16, this one is 17. But the day perfectly coincides. This one is Friday, this one is Friday. And also the month is earlier than the other. So, the outpouring, when the rain began to pour out, The only thing that perfectly coincide is the day. Both of them is Friday. Not the date. Because the date here is 17, this one is 16. And also the month, earlier than the other. This one is April, this one is May. But when Noah entered into the ark, it is the date that perfectly coincides. This one is 10, that one is 10. But not the day. Because Noah entered to the ark Friday. But April 10 is Saturday. So, 1 month earlier than the other, 1 day earlier than the other. So, there is only one that perfectly coincide. Every incident, brothers and sisters. And the end of 40 days and 40 nights ended on June 27. June 27, 2344 BC. And this is also Friday. I think this Friday. Let me see. June 27, pattern number 5. June 27, 2344 BC. So that is Wednesday. This is Wednesday. June 27, 2344 BC. This is Wednesday. And Christ ascended to heaven May 27, 31 AD. This is Thursday. So, what coincide? The date, both of them is 27. This one is June 27, this one is May 27. But the one is earlier than the other. May is 1 month earlier than June. This one is May, this one is June. And also, the day is earlier than the other. Wednesday is 1 day earlier than Thursday. So, only the date that perfectly coincide. This one, the end of 40 days and 40 nights of reigning. The end of 40 days from Christ's resurrection to His ascension. So, the one that coincides is only the date. Not the day. The day is earlier than the other because the other is Wednesday. The other is Thursday. So, that is our groundwork, the type. So, we could be able to trace forward the antitypical fulfillment, the closing of provision for the church, and the closing of provision for the world. Right? So, if if you will look at in 2SR page 252, I would like to read. 2SR page 252, it says, "Therefore, we shall first consider the 7 days from the time Noah entered the ark to the commencement of the flood, of which we stated to be the type of the time between the close of provision and the commencement of the plagues. The method to be used in disclosing the length of time in the said period is also to indicate that human provision and the completeness of the gospel proclamation has closed. The only fitting biblical number that can be used to describe such incidents, as well as to reveal the number of days from one event to the other, would be number 7. Therefore, we must multiply the type with the biblical number of completeness. The 7 times 7 equals 49 days, from the close of provision to the commencement of the plagues. Therefore, the falling of the plagues should be a signal to the wicked that they are lost. Oh, how great the disappointment to them who, like the antediluvians, hope to be saved but find themselves lost. At 2SR page 252. So, the only difference in the type that when Noah entered into the ark, there are still 7 days. There was no yet threatening, any sign of threatening rain. So I would like to read that statement again on 1TG. 1TG number 12. 1TG number 12, page 27. It says, "You remember that while Noah was preaching that a destruction would come from the Almighty, he was also preparing a place of refuge, building the ark. Those who doubted Noah's announcement of the flood and who scoffed at the idea that they should enter the ark for safety at a time when there was not even the slightest sign of threatening rain, were doubters no longer when the elements of nature were unleashed. Then they madly rushed to the ark, but to their dismay and utter disappointment, they found the door tightly closed against them. Thus all, both good and bad, who choose to remain outside the ark perish. The antediluvians' experience should serve as a reminder to us that we be not presumptuous as were they. We should instead take to heart the clear warning that is pertinent to this hour. For we are told that as it was in the days of the flood, so it shall be at the time of the Lord's coming." 1TG number 12, page 27 and 28. But I would like to focus the statement that Noah entered into the ark at the time when there was not even the slightest sign of threatening rain. There was no material sign that you could see that there is rain. And that is why the wicked continually laugh, ridiculed. It says here in 1TG, number 50, 1TG number 50 on page 15, it says, "Noah was commanded to build an ark and to tell the world that a flood was to cover the earth, that only those who would get into the ark would escape alive. 120 years later, the animals were strangely seen to march 2 and 2 into the ark. Noah and his family also went in, while the rest of the world laughed and ridiculed." You see? They continually laughed and ridiculed for 7 days, the last 7 days. But when the rain began to fall, the situation ceased to be funny. Those outside the ark cried, mourned, plead, but all perished as fools, only because they had failed to give heed to present truth, had failed to feed on meat in due season. What folly, what disaster. So here, brothers and sisters, we already read in 2SR 252 that from the time when probation closed for the church, there are still 49 days. 7 times 7 equals 49. And the same as in the days of Noah, brothers and sisters. The same as in the days of Noah. At the end of the 7 days, when the rain began to pour out, everything ceased to be funny. But we are studying now in the antitypical fulfillment that from the time when probation closed for the church, because the statement in 2SR 183, let's read again. 2SR page 183, it says, the door that was shut is a symbol showing that probation for the church had closed just shortly after the foolish virgins became alarmed. When does the foolish virgins became alarmed? After the 49 days. From the time when the 144,000 are completely sealed, or from the time the door, the probationary time is closed in the church, there are still 49 days. And then at the end of the 49 days, that is the time by which the foolish virgins became alarmed. So, let us now study closely this prophecy, brothers and sisters, so that none of us would be among the foolish virgins. So, that is the reason then why we need to study. Now, I would like to read again in track number 3 on page 70 and page 71. The second section of the separation thus being completed, provisionary time is closed, whereupon from the wicked will be heard the horrible wail of doom. The harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. Jeremiah 20. This being the dreadful experience of the tares in Babylon, in the second section of the harvest, there must, as a type, be a similar and precedent experience for the tares in the Laodicean church in the first section of the harvest. So, it says that Jeremiah 8:20 must be applied first to the first section of the harvest, when the wicked shall cry out bitterly, the harvest is past, and the summer is ended, and we are not saved. So that's what it means by the statement on 2SR 183 that the foolish virgins became alarmed. They recognize the fact. Why is it that they recognize the fact? Because the judgments of God are begun to pour out. The same with the antediluvian world. They will not recognize the fact if there is no rain. But when the rain began to pour out, that is the time that everything ceased to be funny. So here in 2SR 2SR page 185, it says, I would like to read, at the beginning of the judgments of God, 2SR 185, at the beginning of the judgments of God, they saw their mistake and rushed for the ark of safety, but it was beyond their reach, for they knew nothing of the message, and by the time they acquired it, filled their lamps with oil, there had been a delay. The angel had passed through the city, through Jerusalem, the church, the sealing was finished, and probation for the church had closed, the door was shut. Thus they were left out. Then they came with these words, Lord, Lord, open unto us. But he answered and said, Verily I say unto you, I know you not. Appoint his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. What a disappointment that will be. So when they will acknowledge their mistake at the beginning of the judgments of God. According to this reading, to us our page 185. So, let us not wait God's judgments before we believe the message. Although, that is the attitude of the foolish virgins. It was predicted beforehand that they will not acknowledge the message not until the judgments of God began to be poured out. So, to repeat again, according to 2SR 252, in the days of Noah, there are only 7 days, brothers and sisters. They were laughing, ridiculing Noah and his family who entered into the ark. But at the end of the 7 days, everything ceased to be funny. So that is the time by which they cried out bitterly. But in the antitype, both in the church and in the world, it was multiplied by 7. 7 times 7 equals 49 or 49 days. So from the time when probation closed in the church, there are still 49 days. And at the end of the 49 days, that is the time by which the judgments of God began to pour out. And that is the time by which the foolish virgins became alarmed. According to the voice of inspiration, brothers and sisters, that's the time by which the foolish virgins became alarmed. Now, I would like to re-emphasize again, my dear brothers and sisters, that according to the shepherd's rod, the close of provision for the church, I would like to read again in 2SR 255 and 256. 255 and 256. So it says here, it has been explained that the Passover is a type of the close of provision for the church, and the closing of the ark a type of the closing of provision for the world. Therefore, there are 30 typical days between one close of provision and the other. It says, if we were given light on how to decipher this typical 30 days, it seems it would reveal the exact number of years from the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9, Passover, to the final close of provision. It says, this fact perhaps will not be made known until after the work of the gospel has closed. So it says here, the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9, Passover. So what is the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9 mentioned here? It says, Passover. Now, let us now study closely, brothers and sisters, this prophecy. So in that reading, the shepherd's rod is very plain that the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9 is Passover. Although it did not say what specifically Passover. Is it Passover day? Is it Passover week? Or the 10th day on April? The 10th day on April as a part of that ceremony on the Passover week. That the lamb should be separated from the flock on April 10. And it should be killed on April 14. And we know that that is explained in to us our page 255. Because Noah entered into the ark May 10. Therefore, 1 month earlier than the other must be April 10. As stated on 255 in 2SR. It says, the Passover lamb being separated from the flock on the 10th day coincides with the separation of the righteous from the wicked in the antediluvian world. 2SR page 255. So, in that reading, brothers and sisters, it is very plain that the close of provision for the church is April 10, whereas the close of provision for the world is May 10. So, the closing of the ark is a type of the closing of provision for the world, but the closing of provision for the church is 1 month earlier than the close of provision for the world, which is typifying the closing of the ark, which is May 10. So the close of provision for the church must be April 10. Brothers and sisters. But from the time when probation closed for the church, April 10, there are still 49 days. There are still 49 days. And in that 49 days, that is the time by which the wicked or the foolish virgins will say, the harvest is past and the summer is ended, and we are not saved. Now, let us now try to locate, brothers and sisters, in Bible calendar. Now, let us go to 2023. April 10, 2023 on Bible calendar. And we will show to you that, brothers and sisters, so let's look at April 10, 2023. So, April 10, 2023, Bible calendar. Let us add 49 days. 49 days. Add 49 days. So, then we will fall on in Gregorian calendar, November 11, or in Bible calendar, May 29. Now, look at, brothers and sisters. Here I will show to you the impregnable truth. So, hoping that at this time, I could be able to explain it clearly, the fulfillment of Jeremiah 8:20. It says it has a double application, first in the church, and then in the world. Church and in the world, according to track number 3, page 70 and page 71. And remember, brethren, maybe we could not yet realize by now, because the shepherd says only experience can tell the sorrow. It says 1SR 185. The disappointment to such a one would be greater than we can realize. The disappointment to such a one would be greater than we can realize. Experience only can tell the sorrow and grief at such a time. You see, experience only can tell the sorrow and grief at such a time. Can you imagine the statement used by inspiration? Horrible wail. It says here in track number 9, on page 70 and page 71. Learning to their terror with the passing of provision that they are forever lost, the neglectful will cry out bitterly, the harvest is past. The summer is ended and we are not saved. Jeremiah 8 verse 20. You see? It says, the statement, the neglectful will cry out bitterly, learning to their terror. And that is why B.T. Hotep says on 1 TG number 15, it says 1 TG number 15, page 19 and page 20. Who among you, 1 TG 15, page 19 and 20. Who among you would be foolish enough to close his eyes and ears to the testimony of the prophets, and at last in consternation cry out, the harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved? Jeremiah 8 verse 20. Now, first of all, brothers and sisters, we know that the entire period of summer must be from June 22 up to September 22. So this is the entire period of summer. This is summer. So the time by which Jeremiah 20 must be fulfilled is in the period of autumn. In the period of autumn. So from September 22 or September 23 up to December 21. So this is the entire period of autumn. So Jeremiah 20 cannot be applied here in the period of winter. That is ungrammatical to say the summer is ended. No, it is not the summer is ended in the season of winter. It is the autumn. And it cannot be applied on the season of spring. Because it is illogical to say the summer is ended on the season of spring. It is winter that had been ended. And how much more to say it within the period of summer? It is even more illogical to say the summer is ended while it is still within the period of summer. Right, brothers and sisters? So to repeat again, here we will show to you the accuracy of the Bible. That there is only one specific year by which such prophecy must be fulfilled. There is only one specific year. No other year. Jeremiah 8:20, there must be a specific year. And on all other years, it cannot be applied. And we will show to you that this is a part of that statement on 1 TG saying unquestionable knowledge. Maybe you will just ignore, but you cannot question this knowledge. You cannot question this presentation. So this statement in 1 TG 51 page 5 says, periodically adding unquestionable knowledge to knowledge. Unquestionable knowledge to knowledge. And of all the things by which it is impossible to ask question, it is numbers. Because when the answer is correct, then it is foolish. It is foolishness to ask question. Because numbers always needs accurate answer. It is not about. If you will say 3 times 3, you will not say about 9. No, it must be 9. Exactly 9. So that is, brothers and sisters, what numbers is. Now, let us go back to our subject. The statement says, Jeremiah 8:20, the harvest is past, and the summer is ended. Now, brothers and sisters, according to White House Recruiter, let us read on page 38. So I would like to begin on page 37. It says, tragically, those who now fail to fill their vessels, Matthew 25 verse 1 to 4, with this extra oil, the additional truth, that of the judgment of the living, flowing from the golden bowl, Zechariah 4, will finally see their lamps flicker out forever like a gathered candle. Oh, in what consternation then will they search for the precious golden oil? Knocking at it comes the terrifying reply, I never know you. Matthew 7 verse 23. Then is the harvest of the first fruits past, the fruits garnered in, and the tares shut out unto destruction. There in agony to wail and to gnash their teeth. The harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. Jeremiah 8 verse 20. So here in White House Recruiter, page 37 and page 38, very plain says, then is the harvest of the first fruits past, the fruits garnered in, and the tares shut out unto destruction. Now, look at the accuracy, brothers and sisters. When does the first fruits will be garnered in? Meaning gathered, right? Because the word garnered, they have been gathered in. Let us read again, White House Recruiter. White House Recruiter, page 38. It says, then is the harvest of the first fruits past, the fruits garnered in. Of course, that is two occurrences. Harvest, then after it had been harvested, it will be garnered in or gathered. And the tares shut out unto destruction. There in agony to wail and to gnash their teeth. Now let us go to the ceremonial harvest. Brothers and sisters, let us go to the Ceremonial Harvest. From track number 3. On page 76. It says, here we see commanded the observance of the 3 harvest rites. First, the ceremony of the wave ship at the beginning of the first harvest. So, the ceremony of the wave ship at the beginning of the first harvest. Second, the ceremony of the wave loaves at the close of the first harvest. So, what is the ceremony of the wave loaves? Indicates that the first harvest is close. Now, here's another statement that I would like to read. Page 80, answerer number 3. Just as Christ arose on the very day the sheep was to be offered, likewise the Holy Spirit fell upon the 120 disciples on the very day the wave loaves were to be presented before the Lord. The Apostolic Pentecost was accordingly the prototype of the ceremonial Pentecost, the day the wave loaves were offered. And since the wave ship was a figure of Christ and of those who arose with him, as the first of the first fruits of the dead, hence the wave loaves were a figure of the 120 Spirit-filled disciples, who were the full complement of the first fruits of the dead, and who were gathered in after the resurrection. So they were gathered in after the resurrection. Now, ponder deeply, brothers and sisters, on this subject, that we could be able to comprehend the true meaning of the Word of God. Now let's go back again to the statement in 2SR, page 255 and page 256, that the close of provision for the church is 1 month earlier than the close of provision for the world. But the given clue is that the close of provision for the world, typifying the closing of the ark, May 10. So the close of provision for the world is May 10. And the close of provision for the church is April 10. But the fact is that Jeremiah 20 is applied to the church and to the world. Therefore, the close of provision for the world must be during the time when the summer is ended. So that is the period of autumn. That is the period of autumn. That is the time by which, or the season of autumn, by which the summer is ended. And the shepherds had called, brothers and sisters, winter as fruitless. Now let's read track number 3 on page 65. It says, this work being completed during the autumn. So when it will be completed? During the autumn. When the harvest is close. It shows that the harvest is a season of time after the summer is past, and that it is followed by the fruitless winter period. Analyze closely the statement in track number 3, page 65, and you can see the beauty of perfection. I would like to quote that statement in 1SR, saying, the beauty of perfection. It says, 1SR 233 and 234, woe to him who may think all these wonderful designs in the beauty of perfection are just a chance or an accident. Such a one is denying the master mechanic of all creation. He is paying homage to evolution, chance. But the reality is that, well, you might say that it is an accident or it is a chance. But such chance take thousands of years to happen. And that is why it is called purposive design. Brothers and sisters, purposive design, work by the omnipotent hand of providence. No, it is not just a chance or an accident. And there is a beauty in perfection because God is infallible. All His works perfection, even to one jot or one tittle. 1SR 232. Now look at, brothers and sisters. The Bible calendar will always repeat the same cycle. Unlike with the Gregorian calendar. Now, look at the perfection here. When does the harvest of the first fruits, which I would like to use first the term. When does the close of provision for the church will close? April 10. But that is Bible calendar. Of course, that is the biblical and scriptural truth. It cannot be mistaken. The close of provision for the church must be April 10, but Bible calendar. Every year, there must be April 10. But here's the beauty of perfection, because Jeremiah 8:20 is pointing to the season of summer. And it is pointing to Gregorian calendar. Because that is the only calendar common and familiar to all the whole world concerning the season of summer. That is from June 22 to September 22. That is Gregorian calendar. Now, but the harvest mentioned in Jeremiah 8:20 is spiritual harvest. And it is pointing to the close of provision for the church. April 10. And April 10 is in the season of spring. Every year, the Bible calendar remained the same, April 10. But if you look at April 10, it seems that it is in the season of spring. But, you see, brothers and sisters, how perfect does the Bible it is. It was predicted beforehand that there is only one specific year by which Jeremiah 8:20 must find its fulfillment. Whether you believe it or not, just wait. The same as in the days of Noah. The time when God's judgment will begin to pour out, everything ceased to be funny. Now, let's go back again, brothers and sisters. When does probation in the church will close? So I would like to read the statement here in 2SR page 165, it says, When this number is sealed, probation will close for the church, and the judgment for those who are in the world will commence. I would like to read again. 2SR 165. When this number is sealed, probation will close for the church, and the judgment for those who are in the world will commence. So when the number, what number? The 144,000 is sealed, probation will close for the church. When does the close of probation for the church? April 10. Let's read again. 2SR page 255. It says, These coincidences are perfect with the day of the week and of the month. But the one is a month earlier in the season than the other. The Passover being in the first month, and the flood in the second. So that is April 10 and May 10. What is April 10? Typifying, brothers and sisters, it says, the Passover lamb being separated from the flock on the 10th day coincides with the separation of the righteous from the wicked in the antediluvian world. So April 10, that is the time by which the righteous had been separated from the wicked. Now look at the statement here in Answerer. Number 3, on page 13. It says, the 10th day of the first month, the separation of the unblemished lamb from the flock. Exodus 12 verse 3. Corresponding to the 10th day of the 7th month, the work of atonement, the separation of the righteous from the unrighteous, signifying in both events a day of judgment, a day of separating the holy from the unholy. Answerer number 3, page 13. So, it says, April 10 and October 10, both of them, signifying both events, separating the holy from the unholy. What section of separation is that? Second section. Because it is the righteous that had been taken out. It is the holy that had been taken out. It is called second section of separation. Let us distinctly separate the separation which is investigative judgment and the separation which is executive. So, let us distinctly separate. But we are talking about first the investigative. The first section is, it is the wicked that have been taken out from among God's people, that is pertaining to the triumphant church. And then after the triumphant church had been purified, then the righteous, the 144,000 living saints, will be separated from among the unrighteous and will be brought into the church. But not in one place, but brought into one truth. The same with the statement here in 2SR 200, let me see. It says 256. The pouring out of the Spirit is the power that is to descend upon God's servants to carry on the work represented by the former and latter rain. And upon all flesh is the Spirit that is to convince the honest in heart of the truth and bring them into the church, of which Pentecost was a type. So bring them into the church. But that statement can be understood, bring them into one truth. One church, one truth. Right? The same with the statement in 2SR 266. It says, only by the gospel proclamation through that spiritual house can God save His people. There is to be one fold, one shepherd, one Lord, one truth to embrace, one salvation to accept, one road to travel, one gate to pass through, one train to take, and one time to depart, one heaven to enter, one people, and one holy family. There can be no other way. To SR page 266. Now, brothers and sisters, when does probation for the church will close? In Bible calendar, April 10. According to the Shepherd's Rod, 2SR 255-256. But when does probation for the church will close? According to Jeremiah 8:20, when the summer is ended. When does the summer will ended? During the period of autumn. Now, ponder deeply, brothers and sisters. And that's what I've said. There is no other year except this year, 2021. So let us show again our diagram, Jeremiah 8:20. Let us show to you. 246. You see, brothers and sisters, April 10. Where is April 10, 2023? So in that diagram, you see that diagram, April 10, 2023. In Gregorian, that is September 23, 2021. This year, September 23, 2021, this year, the commencement of autumn, in Bible calendar, that was April 10. In 2024, April 10 is September 18. So within the period of summer, April 10, 2025, that is September 13, is still within the period of summer. September 10, 2026, in Gregorian, that is September 7, that is within the period of summer. April 10, 2027, that is September 2. Such occurrence will be repeated in 7858 AD. 5,837 years from this year, it will repeat again that April 10 in Bible calendar in Gregorian is September 23. Now, I would like to repeat again, brothers and sisters. When would be the close of provision for the church according to the Shepherd's Rod? 2SR 255-256, April 10. Probation will close for the church April 10. Now, in Jeremiah 8:20, when will be the close of provision will take place? when the summer is ended. Every year there is summer. But Jeremiah 8:20 is coupled together. Bible calendar and Gregorian. It must be that April 10 Bible calendar in Gregorian must be September 22 or September 23. Because that is the time by which, brothers and sisters, the summer is ended. That is the time by which the summer is ended. And we already show to you that on the next year, 2022, 2023, even up to 2031, even up to 7,944 AD, still, April 10 is within the period of summer. Only the year 2021, by which April 10 will fall when the summer is ended. That is September 23, 2021. And not only that, even the close of provision for the world, it must be May 10. Now, let us look at again our diagram. On May 10, 2029, in Gregorian calendar, that is September 22. You see, brothers and sisters, that is the close of provision. May 10, 2029. The shepherd's rod did not say the year. In 2SR 255 and 256, the shepherd's rod did not say the year. But specifically, it did say the month and the date. The shepherd's rod very plain that the close of provision for the world must be May 10. So I would like to repeat again, brothers and sisters. The shepherd's rod did not say the year. Otherwise, BT Hotep have given the light when would be the close of provision. But the mere fact that God gave him information when would be the close of provision for the world shows that it is the will of God that God would reveal it, the close of provision for the world. And the only revelation that was given by God to BT Hotep is the month and the date, both the close of provision for the church and the close of provision for the world. And that is Bible calendar. So I would like to repeat again, my dear brothers and sisters. It cannot be mistaken. The shepherd's rod made it so plain that the close of provision for the church, it must be April 10. And the close of provision for the world, it must be May 10. The close of provision for the church is 1 month earlier than the close of provision for the world. Because the close of provision for the church, April 10, and the close of provision for the world is May 10. So that is very plain, right? And it is called the 30 typical days. It is not literal, because if that is literal, then that is pointing to the same year. Only literal 30 days. No. It is figurative. Only dealing the month and the date. Of course, the year is pointing to different year. The close of provision for the church and the close of provision for the world. But the infallible fruit is found in the Gregorian calendar. Because the close of provision, my dear brothers and sisters, it must be. So the close of provision, it must be when the summer is ended. When the summer is ended. Now, I would like to show to you the illustration. Noah entered into the ark May 10, 2344 BC. That is already close of provision of the antediluvian world. But they continually mock, ridicule, because there was no sign of threatening rain. But 7 days later, that is the time by which they cried out bitterly. So, May 17. And the shepherd's rod says, that is typifying the close of provision for the church. April 10. 1 month earlier than the other. Right? But it did not say what year. But how do we know that it is in the year 2000, April 10, 2023, Bible calendar? And how, or in what way that we are so certain that in April 10, 2023, this is the time that probation closed for the church? First, brothers and sisters, Jeremiah 8:20. April 10, it must be coincide with Jeremiah 8:20. And only 2023, by which in Gregorian calendar, this is September 23, 2021. In Gregorian calendar, it is September 23, exactly portraying Jeremiah 8:20. The summer is ended. Because the summer will be only up to September 22. The summer will only be up to September 22. Now, so that is the first one that we can rest assured that such proof is impregnable, infallible. Why? Because of the 6,000 years prophecy. And if the fulfillment of Jeremiah 8:20 will not be fulfilled this year, 2021, you will wait 5,837 years to coincide April 10, Bible calendar in Gregorian September 23. And if that is the case, then the earth would exist more than 6,000 years. It must be 12,000 years. Contradictory to the Bible. Contradictory to the Shepherd's Rod publications. And that is why we are so certain, brothers and sisters, that this year, 2021, the close of provision for the church. The first proof is Jeremiah 8 verse 20. Now, what is the second proof, brothers and sisters? The providential coincidences. So, our let me see. The center of attraction must be the cross. Now let us project first. AD, April. Pattern number 6. Just copy pattern number 6 because I'm looking for the diagram. I could not find. Pattern number 6. Uh, 31 AD. And then pattern number 3, May. So that, and then put pattern number 3, May. Pick up pattern number 3, only the month of May, and then let us make a comparison. You need to place pattern number 6, April 31 AD, then pattern number 3, May. Now, look at, brothers and sisters. So, that is 31 AD. Let us place April 31 AD. So that is the given clue. The year of crucifixion. So I would like to read again the statement here in 2SR. SR page 254. Flood coincides with the Passover and crucifixion. Flood coincides with the Passover and crucifixion. Now, hoping that you still remember the flood, did you copy what I'm demonstrate? The flood. May 10, 2344 BC and April 10, 31 AD. Okay. Now, May 10, 2344 BC, that is Friday. April 10, 31 AD, that is Saturday. So what coincides? Only the date, not the day. Because May 10, 2344 BC, when Noah entered into the ark, that was Friday. And when the lamp had been separated from the flag, April 10, that is Saturday. One day earlier than the other. When the rain began to pour out, May 17, 2344 BC, Friday. Jesus Christ was crucified April 16, 31 AD, Friday. What coincide? Only the day, not the date. Because the date is 16, the other is 17. The 40 days ended on June 27, 2344 BC, Wednesday. The 40 days from Christ's resurrection ended on May 27, 31 AD, that is Thursday. What coincide? Only the date, not the day. Because the other is earlier than the other, Wednesday and Thursday. Therefore, this statement, I would like to read here in 255. It says, These coincidences are perfect with the day of the week and of the month. But the one is a month earlier in the season than the other. The Passover being in the first month and the flood in the second. Now, brothers and sisters, the statement perfect, these coincidences are perfect, could not be referred to the historical event because we already demonstrate to you that not all are perfectly coincide. Only one. Brothers and sisters, sometimes it is only the day, sometimes it is only the date. But if you will say, the coincidences are perfect, it must be both to the date and both to the day. And that is only pattern number 3. Now, let us look at now pattern number 3. The one, April 31 AD, pattern number 6, and May, pattern number 3. So, only pattern number 3 that perfectly coincides with the year of crucifixion. So, the shepherd's rod is giving the clue that the close of provision for the church, it must be on the year by which that year must be pattern number 3. Because that is the only pattern that coincides the year of crucifixion. Pattern number 3. So that is the second infallible proof that we could show to you that this year, being pattern number 3, is the fulfillment of this statement in 2SR 255 and 256. And not all pattern number 3. So we have already an absolute answer. First, you see how God gradually revealed to His people concerning the close of provision. First, it was revealed by God to Betihotep. Only the month and the date. April 10. So the first clue was given by God to Beti-Hotep. When does the clause of provision for the church will be fulfilled or will occur? The absolute answer is found in 2SR 255, 256, April 10. But every year, there is April 10. So the clue that had been given is very broad, general. But the clause of provision for the church must be only on April 10. There is no other month and there is no other date. I would like to repeat again. If you believe completely the shepherd's rod, then you need to accept the absolute fact that probation will close for the church on April 10. There is no other month, there is no other date. There is only one specific month by which the close of provision for the church will take place, and there is only a specific date. It must be April 10. But every year there is April 10. What is the second clue that had been given? Bible pattern. We need to find out by which May should perfectly coincide both the day and the month, both the day and the date on the year of crucifixion. And there is no other pattern. There is only one pattern. That is pattern number 3. So the second clue that had been given is getting nearer and nearer, because pattern number 3 will go back to the same pattern every 7-year cycle. For there are only 7 days in 1 week. Therefore, there are only 7 patterns of Bible calendar. And there is only one pattern that perfectly coincides the year of crucifixion, and that is pattern number 3. So we have already 2 given clue. Both of them are infallible. It cannot be mistaken that close of provision must be April 10. Close of provision for the church. And second, it cannot be mistaken that the close of provision for the church must be pattern number 3. So it must be April 10, pattern number 3. But every 7 years, there is pattern number 3. And the third one, it must be pattern number 3 by which April 10 would fall when the summer is ended. So I would like to read again the statement in 1 SR 232. It says, by all Bible students, Numbers 3 and 7 are accepted to be the biblical numbers to ascertain scriptural truths. So, that is very plain, but sisters, right? Numbers 3 and 7 is the biblical numbers to ascertain scriptural truths. Right? So we have now number 3. Even Jesus Christ says that by the mouth of 3 witnesses it can stand. And we had now 3 infallible proofs. So I would like to repeat again. To make it clearer. Does the spur prophecy says there is a given time? Yes. It says those who believe went into the ark at a given time. I would like to read 2 SR 183. It says, but those who believe went into the ark at a given time, and the door was closed. So there was a given time. And what is that door that was closed? To SR 183. The door that was shut is a symbol showing that probation for the church had closed just shortly after the foolish virgins became alarmed. So to repeat again, the illustration of the closing of the ark is the close of provision for the church. There was a given time, and those who believe went into the ark at a given time. Now, we are now studying the given time. What is the given time? And it is one of the Bible numbers. And we fully believe that this secret code cometh from God. What is or when would be the close of provision for the church according to the shepherd's rod? April 10. To SR 255, 256, it says April 10. So it cannot be mistaken. The close of provision for the church must be April 10. The close of provision for the world must be May 10. Bible calendar, 1 month earlier than the other. So that is the first clue. So we need not look any other month. We need not look any other date except April 10. Because it cannot be mistaken. The close of provision for the church must be April 10, Bible calendar. But how could you certain that that is the specific year by which the close of provision for the church will take place? You need to find out Bible pattern calendar that will be perfectly coincide with the Bible pattern calendar of the year of crucifixion, pattern number 6. And what Bible pattern calendar that perfectly coincide? Pattern number 3. But 1 month earlier than the other. Now let us show again. 31 AD. You see, Jesus Christ died on the cross April 16, 31 AD, Friday. And look at pattern number 3, May 16, also Friday. So, of course, it is illogical that the shepherd's rod is saying, brothers and sisters, the same pattern It could no longer be perfectly coincides, but rather it become literal 30 days, pointing to the same pattern. So there is no other pattern except pattern number 3. And that is why all the prophecies in the Bible can never be understood unless the Bible calendar must be restored first. And since the Bible calendar was completely restored, thank God, there is no more difficulty to decipher these prophetic events. So to repeat again, the second clue is, it must be pattern number 3. But the third one is Jeremiah 8:20. It must be April 10, pattern number 3, by which in Gregorian calendar, it must be September 23, when the summer is ended. Jeremiah 8:20. Now, for example, 2030, that is pattern number 3. Let us look at April 10, 2030, Bible calendar. That is pattern number 3. You see? April 10, 2030, pattern number 3. But in Gregorian, that is August 17. That is not the summer is ended, because August 17 is within the season of summer. The summer is not yet ended. So it cannot be on pattern number 3, 2030. But we already show to you that it will repeat again on 7858 AD. 5,837 years from this year, by which such occurrence will be repeated again. And of course, we will no longer going backward because nothing happened. But we are very certain that this year, brothers and sisters, some will utter the disappointing words, the harvest is past, the summer is ended. We are not saved. But when the judgments of God will begin to manifest, 49 days after the summer is ended. Now let us go to the Gregorian calendar, because that is the statement given by the shepherd's rod. September 23, 2021, Gregorian calendar. Now let us add 49 days. So it must be in November 11, 2021. That is the very day by which the judgments of God will begin to be poured out. That is the time by which the foolish virgins will become alarmed. And that is still within the period of summer. Autumn, rather. It is within the period of autumn when the summer is ended. Because the entire period of autumn will be up to December 21, 2021. Now, let us go to the statement the fruitless winter period. Track number 3, page 65. It says, this work being completed during the autumn, it shows that the harvest is a season of time after the summer is past, and that it is followed by the fruitless winter period. So in that reading, we can easily discern that during autumn, there is still souls to be saved. But within the period of winter, it is fruitless. That statement cannot be applied to the world. Why? Because from the general clause of provision to the second visible coming of Jesus Christ, there are 450 days. More than a year. That is 15 literal months. And since that is 15 literal months, then there must be in that period of time spring, summer, autumn, winter, and spring. 5 seasons, there is no conversion of soul. Fruitless. For 150 days, fruitless. No more conversion. No more gospel. I would like to read 2 SR. Here in 2 SR page 100. (161) From that point of the chart, close of provision, to the second coming of Christ and the beginning of the millennium, there will be 15 months. How many months? 15. 1 year, there are only 12 months. So that must be 12 months and 3 months. So it can be applied during that period of time by which that is fruitless. 450 days fruitless. And that 450 days, all seasons were there. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter, and also spring, because that is 15 months. And the Word of God is perfect. There must be a specific year by which, in that specific year, during that winter, it is fruitless. Now, for example, when we reach the kingdom, although, whether you believe it or not, September 22, 2022, that is the time by which God's people will be in God's kingdom. That is pattern number 4. Let me see first. Pattern number 4. Right? So, it must be June 6. So let us see, June 6, 2024, the outpouring of the Holy Ghost. Is it November 13, 2022 in Gregorian? Let's see. I'm asking, is it November 13? So that is November 13, 2022. November 13, 2022. That 200 million received the Pentecostal power. Then they preached the loud cry proclamation during the great time of trouble. Loud cry. Now, from 2022 to May 10, May 10, 2029, it is September 22, right? September 22. What is that in Gregorian? Let me see.